Sensitivity is intelligence. With grace and skill, you have abundance. Welcome to the Psychic Hour. Host Kelly Brickle is a psychic medium, numerologist, healer, and teacher. Her passions are learning about the soul and energy. Whether through spirit, emotion, or vibrational numbers, there is always a pathway of information waiting to help. Now, here is your host of the Psychic Hour, Kelly Brickle.
Hello, everybody. Hey, welcome to the Psychic Hour. I'm Kelly Brickle, and we're going to be having medium, channel, author, and very much more. She's a powerhouse of energy, Frances Pullin. I'm going to bring her in right from the get-go, and we're going to dive in with her. So welcome, Frances. Hey.
Hey, hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I wanted to bring you on from the beginning. We're going to be talking about energy, of course, but love, maybe some past lives, whatever comes to mind. And I wanted to ask you kind of what you've been up to. I mean, you're always up to something different. You've been teaching. You're an author of 2 books. It is Amadeus, Loving the Me and Me. And then you're working on another book. What are you up to, Frances?
Well, I just returned from Sedona. I led a wonderful retreat and had some great energy. Oh my goodness. Everybody pulled together. It was the exact right amount of people, the exact right amount, and the exact right energy. We just all clicked. It was beautiful. So that's part of what I'm doing. And then, of course, you mentioned a book. My mother in spirit wants to help me write a book about her play in my life. So it should be interesting.
It is interesting.
Somebody right with you from spirit should be pretty cool.
Parents from the other side giving more healing, right?
Yes.
That I'm a big fan of that concept. I really am. With the concept of channeling, because you're a channel and a psychic medium, what comes up within just the latest work you've been doing a lot with the messages coming in? Has the parents been coming in, and has that inspired you to write and do this book, or has other messages or beings been coming in lately? What's been the energy that is most come up for you?
Most recently, it's been channeling Amadeus Mozart.
Ooh.
And we have to understand that he and I were related in that lifetime. I was his older sister. We've got a lot of validation I won't go into here, but it's exciting. And gal that went on the retreat, she and I talked with him before the retreat because she was helping me with some of the most important things, food and getting organized. And he was amazing. And we must have spent an hour with him just talking about normal things, how's this going to go? How's that going to go? And then, of course, at the retreat, we had an evening where we had a cacao ceremony. And afterwards, we had an Amadeus session. And he gave some general information. And I have to say, I usually don't remember it. So once it's posted on my website, you can listen in and see what he had to say. But we also had time to ask specific questions from each of the guests. So they got a personal reading with Amadeus Mozart as part of the retreat. It was wonderful.
So, to let people know, if they are not familiar with your background as a channel and as a medium, can you explain your connection to Mozart and how he comes in for you?
Okay.
Hey, yes.
2003, my son passed away. My oldest son, he had a heart attack. And down the rabbit hole I went. And coming out, a friend said, I'm teaching meditation. I think you need to be there. that began my deep dive into spirituality. Didn't think I would ever be able to say this, but I can now thank him for passing and forcing me onto my journey, where in automatic writing, after meditation, we learned automatic writing. And then Amadeus showed up one night, and then she decided to teach us to channel. And he's just a bold character. He loves to laugh, and he popped in and she said, "We're going to channel tonight." And I went, "Okay." And he was there. Nobody else in the room could talk because he was already there talking. And he has kind of an accent. I call it European because it's a mix of I don't know what. And as we proceeded through life, I was doing a talk at a spiritual fair, and a gentleman in the audience said, "Is the channel your sister from that lifetime?" And I heard yes. Imagine. I just was stunned, and I flew off the handle, so to speak, and I let Amadeus go. And I said to the man, I said, "No one's ever asked me that. Like, how could you have done that to me?" I didn't know what to do. And then I brought Amadeus back, and he finished the story. He said he's with me in this lifetime to repay karma from that lifetime, where he needed our father's attention to make him as great as he became, and there wasn't any room for me. And so they pushed me aside. Interestingly enough, I did a hypnotherapy with a friend. There we were. Then I went to Austria, and I went to my grave site, and a very distinct voice said, "You have the energy. There is nothing here for you." I had nowhere else to look. I had to believe it. I had to trust it. They're always, he's here right now. They're always telling me to trust. And the big reveal happened recently. I was watching a movie called Mozart's Sister at a friend's house. And I swear, I thought I was in the movie. I thought the character was me. I felt like she had my energy. And at one point, she was listening outside the music room because they'd locked her out. And I realized that was a point in time where I learned that I wasn't loved. So we come to who I am today, and I teach love of self, and I teach discovering love of self. And, if you had to say, "This is my love light, this is what I need," have you ever thought about it? Have you ever really sat down and thought, if I'm not getting a kiss every night when he comes in the door, do I need that? Or is that something they just do in movies? You have to figure out what you want, and you have to be able to express yourself, which I didn't know how to do. I had no idea what love was in this lifetime. I had no clue, but I know now. I know what I expect.
I love that. No, I love, it's a segue. And really quick before we go into it, hello, Tanita, Z, Jennifer, McCormick, Jennifer Rose, Jeffrey, Elizabeth. Hello, everyone coming on in. Thank you for being here with us. And we're getting hearts, so always love that. Hearts from Jennifer. She's a sweetheart. Hello, Barbara. Hello. So it's a beautiful question. What is love, and how do we want to be loved? And you were talking about being Amadeus's sister, and how you had to be pushed aside, and you're like, I don't feel loved. And then you took it back to this life, and you have a different perspective of how you want to be loved. And what are like some of the answers you have found of what you think is so important with love?
It's a question of my particular love language. And it started some time ago when I was in high school, junior high, and all these girls ran up and hugged each other, and they hugged their mothers goodbye and they kissed them. And I thought, I want that.
Yeah, yeah.
I want that. So I allowed myself to be touched. I allowed myself to be embraced with those hugs. And I wasn't receiving it from my mother. Yes, mother, I love you. I wasn't receiving it from her or from my father, but I was learning what it was.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, in this part of my lifetime on my journey, I have learned about heart-to-heart hugs. And so when I approach people, normally we go like this, and I approach them now with my heart touching their heart. And boy, there's a difference, a big difference.
Yeah. It's a more thoughtful and specialized hug. I think it's so important because, with our career, with family, with our self-development, there's so many things to do within this life, but really, I would say one of the most powerful feelings and accomplishments of fulfillment you can ever experience is with love. And it doesn't have to be traditional love within the movies or fairy tales, or how we think we need to have romantic love. But right, like as the daughter, how can I bond with my family, my mother, my father, my brothers, my sisters, where I feel loved? Or yes, why? And it's important to talk about relationships because they personify so much of our wants, needs, and desires. Yes. How do we need to be loved?
Amazing. It's so amazing how many people can't answer that question when I ask it in a class or a retreat or wherever I'm at. What's your love language? That's kind of a hokey little thing that's going around now. What's your love language? But gosh, it's so important.
It is.
It's so important to know what you're expecting, because we've had to change some of our relationship. My husband and I, he had tongue cancer, which led to radiation, which led to dry mouth, which if you've ever kissed a sock, there's, we want that, as strange as it sounds, we want that saliva, we want that wetness, we want that. So we had to kind of figure out how to have some differences that worked for us, that made me, especially the one who felt unloved all of her life, that made me feel still loved, even though that simple little, silly little thing that we kiss our friends, we kiss our dogs and cats, we kiss everybody, but it had to change. And so it was fun to figure out how to have passion without that.
Oh, I think that's incredible because we have these obstacles, and a lot of times the obstacles are superficial, like, oh, I expected, you to show up like this, or I would imagine to feel like that, or, as a woman, as a man. But you're talking about already being bonded with your husband, and then there's this, health experience, and you're like, we have to make sure we feel a certain way because it's part of how we conduct love.
And you remember when you get married, in sickness and in health.
Yeah.
And you say, oh, I signed off on that one too. I signed off on my son leaving early so I'd get on this journey. I signed off on my husband getting ill. And what was I thinking? What was I doing? Interesting. It's been such a fabulous journey.
Yeah. Like, you never know when you're going to get another lesson in love. The ones that hit you across the face, you can't run from, but you go, oh, right. We're doing this now. And right. Like illness, health, emotional discord. I think some of the highest vibrations you can experience with people is making sure that they're loved and having conscious discussions about that. What do you want? How do you want to be loved? How can I love you? Don't you want to know about how I want to be loved? and not just talk about it, then to actually do it.
Right. Experience it.
Experience it. Exactly. That's living. If you want to talk about living, that's living.
And then we get into the real simplicity of it, because as we all know, homelessness is a very real, in your face problem in the world. And how many times do you avoid eye contact with someone asking you for money, or sitting on the street, and they want to be loved too.
Yeah.
And they can't ask you to love them. They don't even know how to love themselves.
Yeah.
But if you smile, if you just smile, and then if you could say, hello, how are you? It's even better. I had a gentleman the other day, long, straggly hair, dirty clothes, and he was holding the door open at the drugstore. And I just couldn't believe it, because I didn't expect it. People are being nicer to me because I'm elderly now. But he was elderly too. And I said, thank you. You just made my day. I'm so excited that you held the door for me. I just thank you. And he just kind of looked at me and shook his head, and he was shocked as I was. So it's the simple things too. The very simplest things can change a person's day.
It's true. It's smiling, opening doors, compliments. They're huge. They're actually quite huge, and it's about the connection thing. A lot of times when we feel disconnected, isolated, alone, maybe we're going through a dark night of the soul, maybe we're going through something that is just difficult, or we feel a certain way. We are disengaging from life because we don't feel like we have the tools or the people around sometimes to nurture us. And when someone looks in our eyes, whether we know them or not, there's connection, there's intimacy. So there's just human connection is a huge thing. But when we actually know somebody and to have the further intimacy of that, it is really something needed. And we're all here to learn from each other, and we can't do it alone. We shouldn't do it alone. And we need to feel the spark of one another.
Right. Absolutely. If we can't give it, how can we receive it? And if we don't know how to receive it, how do we know how to give it?
Yeah.
And it is something that can be taught. I know, because I taught it to me, and it's changed my life. I'm never afraid to embrace anybody, or even if, putting out your hand for a handshake, hold on to their hand also, and give it more than just a simple handshake, give it some love, nurture it. That's what our retreat was about. And it was interesting because the very first evening, out of my mouth, and when I'm at these retreats and things, a lot of times I channel without announcement, without meaning to, just words come out. And I said, each and every one of you are here to learn, to teach love of self. And they just looked at me, and I said, I don't know where that came from, but I'm sure glad it did, because I can't teach it alone. I have to have multitudes. We all have to do it. We have to come together. And they gave me a message, and they said, teach certification, certify people. They can follow what we've taught you, and then they can add their own to the mix. I hadn't thought of that, but they were all so receptive the 5 days we were together, of getting the message and getting it out there. And the key to what I've been taught by Amadeus is to teach it to the children.
Yeah.
Those littles.
Yes, I do think the way that we experience love, and what it does just to the brain, to the immune system, to our emotions, how expressive we are, because it's so important. It's very different. It wasn't a thing back in the day where you tell your kid, I love you. It wasn't needed. It just wasn't needed. And now it's very much encouraged. It's
Yes.
very much encouraged
Right.
for all the biological, emotional, psychological reasons and more.
And it's part of our involvement. There were the days when it wasn't all that important. And yes, Jennifer, tomorrow isn't promised. May we have the courage to love greatly. Thank you. That's beautiful. We need to change our society. And they tell me that if we teach love of self to the world, we'll find peace on earth. And as a kid, as a child, I was in the choir at in high school and in church and stuff. But this one particular song in high school was Let There Be Peace on Earth.
Let
And
it
let
begin.
it begin with me. That was my song. I loved that song. I sang it all the time. And now I've written it in my book. Actually, some of the words went into the book and the author, and gosh, what if we could have peace on earth?
It's definitely possible, but we have to cultivate some type of peace and love within ourselves. And in order to do that, we have to be brave. We have to be brave, and we have to go up to the people, around us that don't understand, or we would enter uncomfortable situations. We would enter painful situations where we're gonna not even know who we are sometimes as we're redefining how we look at love. And we have to go into the trenches and say, I need to handle this so my soul can be at peace. I need to go and show up for love.
Yes.
And we go, this is hard. I don't want to have this discussion. I don't want to, feel these things. And so we shy away from it. And then it's some imaginative kind of Garden of Eden in our mind of, oh, if we could only have peace on earth, if we could only have peace on it. We have to do the work. And the work does not feel good usually.
And I try and call it not work, but sometimes that's exactly what it is.
What's a better word as well, or what's a different word? Because I agree with you.
Audience, one of them will throw it in there, and we'll get our audience involved a little bit. But if we see, they feel it coming. If we do that work, don't be afraid to ask. Ask a mentor, ask a family member, call me, call Kelly, call someone and say, I'm ready. How do I do this? I need some help. Because, when you're facing that dark part of the soul, you wonder how you're going to accomplish everything they've put in front of you. And I had to, as I did my work, I had to, investment is good. As I invested in myself, I had to say, I'm sorry to them, whoever had harmed me, and to myself, because maybe I sort of asked for it. Maybe I was misbehaving just to get attention and it backfired. You never know. But forgiveness of self is a real key. It's a very important piece.
Investment pays back in love. I agree. Work, investment, attention, connection, it pays back in love. And I love the way that you say that, Francis, because you're like, maybe I, occurred, oh man, it just fled my head. Forgive me. But I'm going to paraphrase it. You said, maybe I asked for this. That's what you said. Maybe I asked for this. And it's like, I think before we come down, to earth, when we get all energetically organized, we go, I must experience this. So let me have it. You want to batter up? We got to do this. I've asked for lessons too. I've asked for you to crack me open or let me see differently. And I'm going to have to get jostled. I do think that love it's for the brave, it's for the innocent, it's for everybody, but we can't just see love as this light occurrence within the world. We have to travel with all sides of human expression, and it guides us through that, and it is a part of it. It really is.
Absolutely.
It's hard to see it sometimes, though. Gosh.
It is.
For the heady people in the room, they'll be like, I have a moral dilemma for you. What do you think about that? And I'll just be like, okay, let's talk about it. But it can be correct. It can be very, polarizing when you talk about light and love. But the thing is, it's all inclusive. I really do think.
Right. And we have a comment that says maybe they were not taught love, meaning these people who we deem helped create our lack of love. And I have a cute little thing to tell you. My mother came through to talk to me the other day, and she said, there's another book. And I said, oh, what's this time, Mother? And she said, loving the you and you from the mother's point of view. So yes, she wasn't taught love. And she wants to tell that part of the story. Who knows how big the book will be, but it will be. And then my dad pops up and says, and from Dad too, he wants to tell his part of the story. It's just beautiful.
I'm just commenting yes questions. Whether you see this, Tammy, or hear this, yes, you may ask questions. There are so many different perspectives of love, and you could give someone all the love in the world as a partner or as a daughter, a sister, and if they have not been taught it, or if it's not within their soul to understand energy in that way, you will just come to a stalemate until they say, yes, I'm ready, or, oh, that's interesting, I'm curious. What do you mean by that? Okay, let me try to go there. So love, I think, is painful most times because it is not a self fulfilling journey in itself at times. It's really about surrendering and going, someone can't come with me right now. Someone can't come with me in this way, but I still hold the love, or I will still be open to the love. Maybe we'll have this discussion in 5 years. Maybe we'll never have this discussion in this lifetime. I have to still, if I'm brave enough or if I'm capable in whatever capacity I can be, still hold the love, even though I'm letting go of them coming along with me.
Right. And it doesn't mean that you can't love someone that you parted ways with.
Yes.
Maybe they've passed away. Maybe they're just not in your circle anymore for whatever reason. Maybe you had a falling out. It doesn't matter. You still get to love them. And part of the channel part of this, myself learning to channel, has just connected me with my guides and angels and my others, meaning my loved ones who have crossed, grandmas, grandpas. I have so many people on the other side. We're going to have the biggest party when I get there because I'm the party one. I'm the organizer, so I'll make sure it happens. But you can talk to them. You can make amends. You can talk to, let's just say you broke up with a loved one 20 years ago, never seen, never heard. You can just go into meditation and you can have an actual telepathic communication with them and express. And one of the big tools I like to use and talk about is the Ho'oponopono prayer.
I love you. I forgive you. I'm sorry. I can't even think about the mantra right now, but I love you. I forgive you. What is it? What is it? It's
Sorry. I love you. I forgive you. And thank you.
There you go.
4 sentences, not even sentences. I love you. Sorry. I forgive you. Thank you. And it is so powerful when you're doing the work. Excuse me, when you're putting in the investment.
When you're putting your attention on the energy.
Yes.
So many different ways to say it.
Right.
So some people are asking about like questions. Yes, you can ask questions. We are talking about the energy of love. If you want to talk about spiritual discussions with your own experiences, yes, please ask away. We'd love to talk about them. We are not doing readings, but we are talking about this topic.
We have a great sentence on the screen now.
Yes.
About my late father was not my blood father. I understand why he didn't love me, but I gave out love. And I just want to bring to your attention that maybe he did love you the best he knew how. Maybe he didn't love anybody any different than he loved you. And I have a personal experience. My husband adopted my 2 children from my first marriage. And they were, let's say, junior high-ish. And we were talking the other day, and I said, I don't think you ever think of those kids as not your blood. And he said, never. Those are my children, just like the 2 we had together. So did he show them a difference in love? I didn't see it. But if I were to ask them, maybe he did. So we can't judge it as we're investing in ourselves. We have to forgive it. However it felt, it has to be forgiven.
Yeah, however it felt, it has to be forgiven in time, because it's almost like if we hold on to it in a certain way within us, because whether the impact or the trauma or the memories, we think about the punishment or we think about the pain. And so comes a time where we go through Ho'oponopono or however journey it takes us to forgiveness. I release you from this. I release you from this. I forgive you. I forgive the situation, and I let it go. I'm past the situation on a different level now. The pain has transmuted on a different level now, but it takes time. It takes realization. It takes attention. The work, it takes investment sometimes of, am I ready to go here? Because just because you want something doesn't mean you're ready. And we all have our spiritual clock differently.
Absolutely. And in answer to the continuation of this comment, sometimes a parent who steps into step parent doesn't know how to love that child. And there may even be some underlying emotion that the mother had relationships before she met this man. So he might be hanging on to that. We don't know his story. At least I don't know his story. You may know his story. It's that forgiveness piece. If you can find it in your heart to have forgiveness for that moment in time, maybe he will come through. Maybe he will talk to you. It's an investment in you. Take the time to invest and see what comes up, what surfaces, because love is so individual and so difficult, and we didn't ever talk about it. You wouldn't say to your mother, do you love me? But The kids nowadays just might and probably do.
Yeah, I mean, we're of different generations, and different generations learn different things, and it's the testament of energy changes. And sometimes we're so stuck within, well, that's just like the way it was. That's the way we grew up. No, you can literally change at any time. Your grandchildren could inspire you. Your friends could inspire you. The new people coming onto the planet, they are ushering in change, and we can change just like them. And really, in spirit, we are so flexible with our lessons and our learnings, and we are so much more than just the identity of one life, that the higher soul of your stepfather, or your late father, excuse me, who wasn't your blood father, he's not going to look at things as him just in that lifetime with you. His soul understands very different things. So it is much bigger than just this life. It really is. Tammy is also saying, I think this kind of goes with the book that you're writing. Do I have any loved ones who have passed over or actually love me? So it's kind of like in heaven, the ones who have passed over, do they actually love me? From the perspective of maybe someone who didn't feel loved.
Absolutely. I'm my own example. I never felt loved by my parents, and they've come to me as they were dying. I was holding their hand, each of them at different times. They counted on me, and now that they're gone, and I do talk to them during meditation and my writing, there's love, and I can feel it, and there's joy, and there's regrets. But as Kelly said a few minutes ago, something about evolution. This is evolution. We learn in science that the earth came and it evolved, and we had this evolution happen, and this is the evolution of love. Love is hitting our planet hard.
Yeah.
And it's banging itself, trying to get through to everybody. And some people aren't listening, but we're gonna get them. We're gonna get them. We're gonna snuggle them. We're gonna make them cry.
We're gonna make them cry.
I tell you, when I have somebody cry during a session or during a class, I know that I've touched a love button. I know that they are ready to really make an investment in themselves.
We encourage the big bang in love.
Yay! That'll be our new motto, Kelly and Francis.
Exactly. May all creation happen, right? Oh my gosh. I think this is an interesting question too. So collective I'll go to the question in just a second, but collective love evolution, yes. And I'm not feeling anything from anyone. I've tried to connect. Oh, okay. So we'll stick on this for just a second, then I'm going to go to the next question. She's talking about she hasn't felt the love from people in spirit, even though she's trying to kind of open that consciousness for herself.
The biggest thing that I was taught as I was trying to do what you're trying to do is to trust and to listen and to not think that you were making it up. The worst thing that we do, or the silliest thing that we do to ourselves, is say, oh, I made that up. That wasn't my mom. I just wanted her to say that, so I made it up. And that's not the way it works. When spirit comes to talk to you, trust that it's them. Don't think you made it up. Trust that you, in fact, just heard from your mother.
Yeah.
Then see what happens, because then it moves forward and more things come. And each day that you try, another door opens, another window's unlocked. It is the best.
It's really true. People go, is it just as simple as that? Sometimes it is. It's just as simple as you see them in your mind or you feel them around and you go, well, I would just be validating my imagination. And you have to open the door to experiencing things like that to actually be energy sensitive. because there's these things being impressed upon you. And sometimes, yes, we take the reins and we go, oh, what's this? I'm not used to seeing this, feeling this. And then we kind of impose our own energy into it, right? And then we kind of change how we're experiencing it. That does happen. But we have to actually allow ourselves to, like you said, like show up, validate that you're seeing something, allow yourself to feel something. I know when I was doing a lot of meditation, I did a lot of like past life regression meditations. Or just like invite spirit to come and talk to me. And I'll just be like, how do I know I'm not making this up? Like I was very open to it, but my mind was like, at the same time, how do I know that I'm not making this up? How do I even know I'm having progress? And there was a time where then spontaneously something then just happened, but I kept showing up and I just go, well, we'll just see what happens. And then it was almost like one of my loved ones who had passed came into the meditation, and she like winked at me and smiled at me. And she did it in a way where I couldn't have ever controlled my mind to do that. My mind doesn't do things like that in that way. And the flush of energy she gave me, and I started going, oh, all right. There are some times where it feels like I have nothing to do with what I'm seeing and feeling right now. And I allowed myself to go, I don't know when the next experience is going to be like that, but I just allowed myself to be there. And I allowed myself to open up. Well, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I'm not just going to act like I know, but just maybe until, oh, okay. Didn't see that one coming. All right. Let's keep going.
And it's as easy as just sensing that somebody's there with you. They don't have to touch you. They don't have to tickle you. They don't have to do any of that stuff if they're not doing that. But at our event this past week, there was somebody, and every time we sat at the table, I kept waiting for this energy to come sit down. I felt like somebody was missing. And as we talked at dinner that night, one of the gals said, somebody's been bugging me all day, and I know that it's his grandma. I know it's her. I recognize the energy, and she won't leave me alone. And so we did a little bit of chit-chatting with the grandma, a little bit of work, and figured out why she was there and asked her to leave, and she did. And you can ask them to leave. They're not hurt. They don't get their feelings hurt over anything. Yeah. They're just a constant. They're just energy. They're not filled with these worldly ups and downs and all arounds.
Right. It's like if you had a medium who understood how to feel or sense or know things only because they've practiced, only because they've just done it so many times, and they've like allowed themselves to believe and have faith and trust, and that takes practice. If there's a medium in the room, they would be like, oh, this and this and this. But when we're first starting, we're like, I see something or I get nothing. No, if you're inspired or you think they're in the room, they're probably in the room. And it's just allow yourself to open up your mind, and they're absolutely hearing you with everything that you say. So if you're asking for, why'd you do this? Or I want to forgive you, but I don't know how, or I just want to feel the love. You will open up that channel discussion, and they will keep working with you until you have a moment where you know that they are indeed working with you. That's the thing. The spirit world goes, okay, giddy up. Like, we got a job to do. We got some healing to do. And sometimes our senses have to get up to speed that that's even happening.
Right. Exactly right. And the question at hand on the board is, are they with me? They're always there. They're always there. Unless you ask them to leave, then they'll leave. They don't want to be away from you. They don't have to be away from you. And if the legacy is singing, just do it if you want to. But you don't have to do anything. You don't have to do anything that you're not called to do just because they're asking you to do it. You get to say, I'm uncomfortable. I can't do that. You can say, I'm practicing and maybe in 5 years I'll be on stage. Who knows? And when Amadeus came to me, he said he wanted to see me on the dais. And I didn't know what that meant. And I had to look it up.
What
And
is
I
it?
went on the stage. So
Ooh.
he wants me on the stage. And I take this exchange here today as my stage. He is with me all the time. And he is putting me in positions. The retreat, I was on stage. I was in charge. I was teaching. I was bringing forth words from the other side that were anticipating coming in that time. Gosh, everything is so prearranged that sometimes we lose track of that. That the number of us that were together were supposed to be together, and there was no question. Did I need 10 more? No. I might have thought I did. I might have thought I wanted 2 more, but I didn't. I needed exactly the ones that were there because that was my stage. And today I'm on stage. You're my audience, and I hope you're having a good time.
Yeah. Like however we want to use our instrument, right? May it be encouraged. It has to feel right. And you are performing with spirit channeling through. Let's see. This is an interesting question. I think, I like tackling difficult questions. I do, because I think like at their essence, if people want to know, that's human experience, then why not talk about it? So the question is, what about cheating partners that love you unconditionally, however they were cheating with many even married to someone else, and they have no love for you? You were just part of the list. So we're talking about love. This is the whole conversation. That's why we're taking even questions of like, whoa, what about this? What does it mean to love people in various capacities? And did they really love? And how do we share energy? What does it all mean?
A lot of things come through because we've made the decision to handle a problem we had in a past life. So if we have this person who cannot be faithful, perhaps in a past life, they were ever so faithful and they were cheated on. So they want to see what that feels like to be, have the shoe on the other foot. It may be many different things, but the most important thing that I read in that question is to just forgive them, send them love, put them in the light, and go and blow them out into the universe and let them create a better place for themselves while you create a better place for yourself, because you are number one in your life. You get to be number one. That's not ego. That is love of self. That's taking care of what you brought to the earth in this lifetime. I hope that gives clarity to that, because we can't pass judgment. We don't know why they have that need to have all these multiple partners, but it's none of our business.
Yeah.
It's our business to know our business.
Yeah, I think that's big, because we can go down the rabbit hole of, why this and why that. And that's a very personal journey to them. And ultimately, again, I don't go down the rabbit hole when I say this, but I emphasize why people do certain things, as a whole. When we talked about earlier, well, how do I want to be loved, and what does it mean to be loved, right? And when people are not considering another person, when they are trying to think of, well, how do I need to be loved, they start acting out through, well, what do I want to experience? And what do I want? And what do I desire? And how can I be fulfilled? And so we all make choices because something wasn't fulfilled within us. And we go, I'm going to go take that experience with that person because I can get that with that person. And if I don't get that, I maybe will suffer, or I can't be myself, or that means I'm not living. So they chose to live that way because it accessed a part of themselves that they needed to have in order to experience life. Now, yes, you could go down the rabbit hole of why did they have to do it that way, right? But their soul said, I need to go and do this. And your soul needed to go and do something else very, very, very different. And yeah, it was a lack of consideration, because you're saying, well, I learned this when people had passed. I learned this because it wasn't shared while they were living. But there's many different reasons why a soul does things, and they long for experiences, or they long for love. And really, when we can't understand it, or we go, why did you do it like that? We have to go, I'm putting my hands up, and I need to put the love in myself, because that is the one area that I can make sense of this, to give the love to myself. And in what way do I want to do that? And why have I not done that before? Or why is this coming to me in this way now? Because it's all about love. So what do I want to do with that? What do I want to do with that?
Excuse me.
No worries. Is there anything that you wanted to say with that, Francis, as well? Or
And yes, a lot of times when a person passes, the truth is revealed.
I like that, the way that you say that.
And it's more important for the remaining souls to understand the person who left. And the person who left is already off, getting ready to create their next visit to Earth, or wherever it is they're going, or if they're just going to stay behind and stay out of the Earth energy. Everything that we do is planned for this lifetime. And when our mission is completed, we can go anytime. And I think about my son, his journey was to leave early and get me on my path. So I couldn't see that until he was gone. So even though his soul knew and my soul knew, until he left, there was no reason to even think or talk about it. Oh, you're going to die soon so that I can go on my journey? We had no clue. We had no clue. It's what we learned afterwards. As he left, and he was already gone by the time I got to him, but he spoke to me through spirit and said, I could have stayed. I would have been in the hospital waiting for a new heart. And you would have been driving from Orange County to LA every day, worried sick. And what good is that? Because ultimately I would have passed. It was a beautiful message, because I knew that he made the best choice for us here on the earth, for his father and I not to have to do that, just to let him go now.
Yeah. We in life, sometimes we can make the best choices for us and it affects other people positively, and sometimes we make the best choices for us and it doesn't affect people positively. We can never know how someone's going to choose, because that's their life. But in your son's case, you had no way of knowing, but everything unfurled afterwards.
Yes. And I thank him now. I've been thanking him for a long time. I didn't at first. Gotta admit, grief is real. But then I was able to say, thank you. Thank you for saving me.
That's powerful. Do you feel like when it comes to past lives that you've had many with your son?
Oh, yes. Yes. And sometimes he was the bad guy. Sometimes I was the bad guy. Sometimes it was all good. I did a past life regression with a friend of mine, lovely woman, and her past life was with the same man she's with now, and they're having a great life. And they chose not to have children then or now. And it was so incredible that it was a parallel journey because they had it so well, they needed to come back and learn different lessons in this lifetime. And they are. They're learning different lessons together.
There's so many, and I talk about this, and I think other people are, talk about this discussion a lot. The people within our, and I know Jennifer just had a show with Steve Spur just a moment ago, and they even talked about it. The people within our lives that we experience hurt with, and it could be like very innocent hurt, right? It could be grief, like I'm distraught, right? Or the missing somebody or wanting something different, and really everyone's just doing the best they can. Or it could be something very destructive and very selfish. But the people that we experience the greatest amount of pain with are our closest soul family, usually.
Right. Yes. And we travel in those soul families. We come back together again. And if you've ever seen someone and thought you knew them, but you don't, or if you can, I have quite a few that I can't tell them their right name. I hang on to the name from the past life, and I look at Barbara and I call her Elizabeth, or I look at Jeff and I call him John. Just last night, I said to this woman, "You teach yoga, right?" And she just kind of gave me a grin, and I said, "Oh God, no, you don't." And I said that to her. That was the third time I said it to her.
It's just, yeah.
And she was funny and she was delightful, and she does some body work. She doesn't teach yoga. She said, "I've been meaning to study yoga and I've been meaning to teach yoga." And I said, "Oh, okay. I'm sorry I stepped into your energy that way. I didn't mean to, but I just kept thinking you already taught it."
Well, it's like it's in the aura, right? You're like, it's somewhere. It's in you, right?
It's in her energy and very close.
Yes.
Very close. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yes. Yeah. Lovely compliments too as well. Yeah. I mean, we experience love and people in so many different ways, and we recognize sometimes a soul, and we might do our best to connect with them, but we might play out the old lifetime, or we think they're going to show up being like they were in the old lifetime, and they throw us a curveball and they're like, well, based on what happened to me in this lifetime, I'm not that person. Hello.
Right.
It's all over the map.
Yes. And love shows up in different ways. Love could be just fixing breakfast for somebody. Love could be picking flowers out of the garden. Love doesn't have to be complicated. And yet it is the most complicated emotion. It affects every single one of us in one way or another. Whether you feel loved, you don't feel love, whether you give love, but you don't know how to take love.
Yes.
And a lot of times we suffer from that. If we didn't know what love was and we've just learned, then we really aren't ready to accept people loving us.
Right. I think like there's just so many different levels of understanding how love works. And again, you could, to master it, like you need to know level 1 very well. It's not like you have to know level 100 to be a master. It's just you need to know certain lessons very deeply and truly. And like just reading this comment, she's talking about her mother and how I'm guessing there was a lot of discord in the family and trying to forgive her because she cheated and married when she was too young. So we're talking about real family dynamics where when someone doesn't feel loved, they act out. Or when someone feels like they don't have what they need, they make certain decisions, and it ripples through the entire family or generations. And so everyone's just trying to figure out love. Most times people are doing the best they can, and they're literally trying to survive through love rather than knowing consciously what to do with it.
Right. And sometimes the lesson that was supposed to be learned on earth involves a cheat or a lost love that went on to love someone else. So we don't know. And that's why I stress we can't judge them, because if that was their soul's choice, their physical body, their brain right now, they don't know that. And so they're just acting out what the soul is looking for in this lifetime.
Yeah. Yeah. And the soul pulls us in certain directions. Again, the way that we, I think, conduct the lesson shows our involvement and our grace with how we're gonna choose. But the situations, they're difficult, and most elevated people sometimes are gonna get it messy, because you're given a lesson because you're not going to probably know what to do with it. That's the whole point of going to school, learning something new. That's the whole point of, evolving. If you already knew how to do it and make the best, decision possible and treat everybody kindly and, everyone kumbayas at the end of it, that's like, a high schooler, taking a preschool test. That's not school. That's not school. That's someone just going la-di-da-di-da. Like, no, there's probably going to be ramifications when you're learning.
Yes, absolutely.
And I really feel for, like we all experience it personally, but I really feel when I hear other people saying, and I think this too sometimes. So I'm really being, compassionate when I say this. Wow, if I could just come back and do it again. Or maybe if I was transported 6 months and, into the past from now, and I handled that one situation a little bit differently, I could have had a little bit of a different outcome, right?
Can we erase that and just do it over?
Yeah.
That didn't really happen.
Because you're like, oh, I didn't mean to do that, right? I didn't mean to do that. It's not that like I wanted that way. Maybe everything would have been easier on everybody if it went more like this.
Right.
Well, that's not really what that's not what we signed up. But gosh, is that a nice thought at times? That's not what we signed up for. Yeah. No, thank you to this sometimes. Debbie says, wow, I really needed to hear this message. Yeah, it is one. Like, I've had sometimes extensive discussions with people, with students, right? And someone was really, really struggling with how they felt like they got it wrong. And I'm just like, we come to Earth to do it wrong. We come to Earth to get it wrong, because if we got it right, we would already know the lesson, and then what's the point with coming at times, right? And so we're supposed to get it right and we're supposed to get it wrong. But I really emphasize that, and that might sound kind of strange to hear, but the reason I put it into that frame of mind is when you go and let's say you have a mentor in energy, like psychic mediumship. So we're both mediums, Francis. So, we're very well versed with going to classes and practicing readings and feeling energy. Well, my teachers have taught me when you go to class, spirit wants you to get it wrong. Because if you go to class and you're giving everyone the greatest reading, you're not going to really learn from that. You're just going to think you're the greatest medium ever. And, you're going to be on a high. When you're with your clients, you want to get it right. You want to help them. That's when you want to be on. But when you're practicing with one another in class, you want to go, oh, why did that happen? oh, I get it. I should practice that for next time. Or, oh wow, energy can come in like that. I don't know what to do with that. And you wanna get it wrong. That's where you want to get it wrong, in the school application, not actually in the client application. And Earth is just a giant school, so we're kind of made to get it wrong. So we go, oh, it's like that. It's like
Right.
that.
Absolutely. And in essence, for all of you who are listening in, and Debbie said she really needed to hear it, and all these, you are here because you were invited by Spirit to be here. You weren't invited by Francis. You weren't invited by Kelly.
We're Spirit too,
You
though.
were invited by Spirit, and we were just advertising it. We were doing our part to get you here if you were meant to be here. And obviously you were meant to be here because you stayed. It's like that book you pick up to read and you say, I don't know why I got this book, sweetheart, but it just kind of came into my hand. And you know, I was supposed to read that book today. So I thank you all for listening to Spirit and coming on board.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It all goes by just like that. Francis, I want people to come and find you if they want to be a part of a class, whether you have one online, a retreat, or in person. Where can people find you besides your website? I'm going to put down your website again.
You're typing the website in for them? I am currently working out of the Sanctuary Wellness Center in Tustin. That's where I met Kelly all those years ago. And I'm the president of the Tustin Holistic Chamber of Commerce. We meet the third Wednesday of every month at a place called Ivy's Bridge. You can follow me on Facebook. You can ask me to be your friend. I'm on Instagram and I'm learning. I'm not good yet, but I'm learning. And I'm about and around town. I'm everywhere.
She's a busy bee. You like to keep busy.
And I try to stay in touch with my community because that's where my heart feels the best. Family and community mean everything to me. And so my community becomes my extended family.
I think that's beautiful. Like, you truly have found your soul's calling and purpose, location-wise, people-wise, vocation-wise. I will ask you, though, before we kind of leave and leave everyone with love, what is something you would like people to know about love?
I would like you to know that what you are looking for is out there. Make the investment of time to get to know yourself. Because if you don't know you, how do you know how to love you? And my soul's purpose was given to me by Amadeus to teach love of self. Let's find out what your soul's purpose is. We're all here for the good of the collective. All of us. Thank you.
Thank you. We're all here for the good of the collective. Everybody, we wish you luck with finding your soul's purpose. Thank you, Francis, for sharing yours with us. Absolutely. Please check her out at francispullin.com and the social media platform she's a part of. Thank you, everybody, for being with us here today on the Psychic Hour. We will see you next week for Embracing Infinity. And The numerology hour, I believe, too. I will be in Chicago, so I'll be broadcasting from Illinois, but I have to kind of see the schedule. But other than that, again, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. And thank you once again, Francis, for being so amazing. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye.